Now at 5, how the Joplin Regional Airport will use a more than $800,000 federal grant. Plus, road workers are raising awareness about safe driving in a work zone. And
thousands across the country say they've had enough and want change to address gun violence. I'm Skyler Henry in Washington with their messages to lawmakers.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Improvements are coming to the Joplin Regional Airport. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. The airport is receiving an $860,000 grant to update the airfield lighting control and monitoring system in the control tower. The money comes from a bipartisan infrastructure bill that provides $15 million to U.S. airports over 5 years for repairs and modernization. $15 billion rather. Every year, $20 million is set aside for airports with an FAA contract tower such as Joplin's.
So the tower was built in 2009. All that equipment is original to the building, so it's 14 years old. A lot of them are old enough now that you can't get replacement parts for them, so we just need to go through and replace much of the equipment.
The airport plans to install the new equipment in June. This is National Work Zone Awareness Week. The theme for this year's event is Drive Safe, Work Safe, Save Lives. The goal is to remind drivers to be extra cautious when driving through work zones and to remind workers to follow safety procedures to prevent accidents.
We're away from our homes and our families, so getting everyone home safe is a big thing. We all have families, so safety is our forefront of everything.
The Federal Highway Administration and the American Traffic Safety Services Association are the lead organizers of National Work Zone Awareness Week. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and Cherokee County, Kansas Sheriff David Groves is reminding parents about the dangers posed by certain phone apps. He's asking parents to check what apps their kids are using that could open them up to dangerous situations. And he says if you find an app like that, you should discuss them with your kids.
Provide more exposure to some of these apps. They can be dangerous in different ways. Some of them can be cryptic, some of them can provide GPS locations, and so it's important to know this and also have conversations with your kids that just because they may think that they're talking to another 14-year-old boy or girl, it could very well be a 50-year-old man that has ill intent for them.
Sheriff Groves posted information on apps to keep an eye out for on his Facebook page. Let's check in with meteorologist Sam Lane.
Thank you very much, Dow. It was a little bit of a chilly start this morning with lows in the 30s, all because of that powerful storm system that moved over us on Saturday. That's now moving away. Now we have a ridge of high pressure building in, just spilling some high clouds across our area, but we are watching that powerful storm just off the coast of California and Oregon. That's going to be moving our way as we head over the next few days. Winds have been on the light side today, thank goodness, picking up a little bit down there in north central Oklahoma, but a pretty nice evening. Over the last 36 hours, we were in the mid-60s yesterday. We dropped all the way down into the 30s this morning, and this afternoon we made it up into the mid-70s. Looking down the lane, well, we have some changes in the forecast. Partly cloudy tomorrow, windy on Wednesday, some thunderstorms on Thursday, and a cold weekend ahead. And I'll tell you all about that when we come back.
See you soon. A Kansas City teenager is fighting for his life after being shot for knocking on the wrong door. The family of 16-year-old Ralph Yarl says he was trying to pick up his younger brothers when he mistook one address for another. Police say when Yarl rang the doorbell, a man in the house shot him in the head, then when he was on the ground, shot him again. Authorities said the man was taken into custody on a 24-hour hold but was released and has not yet been charged. Police in Alabama are investigating a mass shooting over the weekend at a 16th birthday party that left 4 people killed and 28 others hurt, mostly teenagers. Happened Saturday night at a dance studio in the city of Dadeville. Witnesses report multiple shooters, but so far there have been no arrests. That's just one of 162 mass shootings in the U.S. so far this year, according to Gun Violence Archive. Thousands of Americans fed up with feeling unsafe took to the streets in 2 major U.S. cities today, demanding politicians do more. Reporter Skyler Henry is at one of the protests in Washington, D.C.
Assault weapons have to go!
Protesters marched through the National Mall carrying photos of loved ones lost to gun violence and calling on Congress to ban assault weapons.
I'm terrified every single day, every single moment, because it's not if it will happen again, it's when.
Lindsay Hartman was at the 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois last year, when a gunman killed 7 people and wounded 48 others. She says she shielded her 4-year-old from the bullets.
There's no reason for weapons of war to exist in the way that they do with no regulation.
A new CBS News poll finds 62% of Americans want to ban the AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. But the poll also found stark differences along ideological lines. 81% of liberals think the U.S. would be safer if fewer or no people owned guns. 40% of conservatives think the U.S. would be safer if more people or everyone had guns. Gun violence remains a top concern for most Americans, according to the CBS News poll, including 77% of parents and 60% of students. But at this weekend's annual NRA convention, several Republican presidential candidates indicated there's no appetite for gun control legislation within the GOP.
The issue is not too many guns. The issue is too many thugs, hoodlums, and savage criminals on our street. We don't need gun control. We need crime control.
A study from the Kaiser Family Foundation found roughly 1 in 5 Americans have had a shooting death in their family. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Still ahead, a dangerous side effect of climate change.
Researchers are warning of an increase in cases of a so-called flesh-eating bacteria with the warming of the climate. I'm Cristian Benavides with what you need to know.
And new policies from a pediatricians group aim to cut down on teen tobacco use. Those stories next in Health Watch. Topping today's Health Watch, the American Academy of Pediatrics is calling for policy changes and new clinical interventions to cut down on tobacco and nicotine use among U.S. teens and children. The new recommendations include screening all adolescents for tobacco and nicotine use during health visits. The organization is also calling for price increases to make it harder for children and adolescents to buy tobacco and nicotine products. Scientists are warning about the rise in potentially fatal bacterial infections due to global warming. The so-called flesh-eating bacteria can grow in warm, shallow coastal waters. Reporter Cristian Benavides has one man's story who survived an infection.
You're right. Kenny Wantz doesn't take for granted being here to share his story.
I still get emotional.
In August 2017, he was cooking a crab when a pinch broke the skin on his hand. Within a day or so, he knew something was wrong and called his then-girlfriend Trisha.
Got this big blister on my hand, and by the time she got here, I was lethargic.
His organs were that quickly starting to shut down, and the infection was already spreading through his body.
It was a Vibrio vulnificus bacteria, which thrives in shallow, warm coastal waters and can infect a cut on the skin. The infection can require limb amputations, and about 1 in 5 people die, sometimes within a day or two.
I can count on my fingertips bacteria that have the high virulence that Vibrio vulnificus possesses.
Dr. Waduta Isiobu with Florida Atlantic University has studied V. vulnificus. While infections are rare, a recent UK study shows climate change threatens to increase those numbers along the U.S. East Coast and push cases further north.
It's one of many problems projected to happen because of climate change. But awareness helps people to become more prepared. So you don't go swimming if you have a wound.
Researchers say V. vulnificus is rarely detected in water colder than 55 degrees. Most infections occur in the U.S. in the warmer months, between May and October.
I was told I had 5% chance of living.
Kenny made it, but needed several surgeries.
I guess I'm one of the lucky ones because I didn't lose anything, maybe some mobility, but I didn't lose a limb or anything like that.
He was able to regain function of his hand and arm with therapy. Cristian Benavides, CBS News.
It's also possible to get the infection by eating raw or undercooked seafood from warm, brackish water where the bacteria grows, but thoroughly cooking the food kills that bacteria. Adding immunotherapy can significantly benefit lung cancer patients. In a phase 3 trial led by researchers from the University of Texas, Results showed a 32% lower chance of disease recurrence, progression, or death with immunotherapy plus chemotherapy versus chemotherapy alone. A new study from Stanford finds about half of children and teens medicated for mental health concerns were seeing only their primary care pediatrician. With depression and anxiety on the rise, researchers suggest pediatricians should be encouraged to make sure that these patients receive evidence-based psychotherapy. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, congressional Republicans square off against the White House in a battle over the federal debt ceiling.
And we're tracking the next storm system headed towards the 4 states. What does it mean? And also the weekend when we come back. Well, friends, we had a warm day again today, and the beautiful weather just continues. We were a little bit on the chilly side this morning, but right now out at Seneca, Missouri, at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, you can see mostly fair skies. Just a few thin cirrus clouds up there, but mostly blue for this afternoon, and that's been that way across the entire 4-state area. Let's take a look at the allergies as it's getting bad once again. It's already been bad, 10.8 today. Tomorrow about 11.3, and most of that is ash and birch trees. Radar right now is clear across our area, but out towards the west, we do have a few showers developing in the Texas Panhandle, but that is about it across the entire region. Although we are seeing warm temperatures today in the 70s, right now pretty much, look at this, 80s out towards the west, Neodesha 81, 80 in Chanute as well as Parsons, a little bit cooler off towards the north and east in Stockton, where they're currently sitting at 71 degrees. One of the factors is low dew points, and this is what allowed temperatures to drop into the 30s this morning. Dew points are still very low and dry, 35 in Webb City, 33 in Mount Vernon, 37 in Yates Center. That in combination with the clear skies at night that's what allows the temperatures to drop quite a bit. 75 right now in Joplin, west-southwest wind at 17, gusting at times to 28 miles per hour. And look at the humidity, only 23%. And in Pittsburgh, 72 degrees, south-south wind at 14. Feels like 72, of course. Dew points 40, so it's a little bit higher there. And humidity 31%. Rain chances are going to be low. Not zero, but pretty close to low tomorrow morning as some showers might develop in isolated areas. We're also watching for the severe risk to be low across our area on Wednesday, but notice out to the west, it's ahead of the next storm system, may impact Greenfield County. And then as we go into Thursday, things are going to be changing. Rainfall amounts with the first system in the morning is going to be very light, but as we go through the next couple of days, as we go into Thursday evening, some places could pick up an inch or a little bit more with some of those thunderstorms that we are expecting. All right, so let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. Lows will be in the mid-50s, again with isolated showers. I know this is a big green blob here, but I think the model's overdoing it a little bit. Just some isolated sprinkles and showers. Then as we go through the day tomorrow, basically a carbon copy of today. Temperatures in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. And then as we go into Wednesday morning, mostly cloudy skies, again isolated showers with lows in the 60s, so very mild. Then as we go into Wednesday afternoon, partly cloudy skies, strong south winds, and temperatures in the mid-70s. And then notice, here comes the cold front just on time, moving in from the north and west on Thursday. Notice the temperatures dropping rapidly behind that. And then as we go into Thursday afternoon, that's when we have the chance of showers and storms in our forecast once again. So tomorrow, partly cloudy, highs in the 70s, scattered storms on Thursday afternoon. Dow, I think that's mainly going to be to the east. If the storm system slows down a little bit, it might have more of an impact on us. But look at the weekend. Temperature of only 51 for a high on Saturday and below freezing on Sunday morning. I know a lot of farmers are not going to want to hear that, but that's the way it's looking right now.
Yeah, farmers, gardeners, people in general with any tender vegetation in the ground.
Yeah, hang on to that cold jacket.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. And new research reveals more than 170 trillion plastic particles are floating in the world's oceans. And a new campaign is underway in England to fight the pollution. Environmental hunters are scouring beaches for tiny plastic balls used to manufacture plastic products. The particles, nicknamed mermaids' tears, resemble fish eggs, so birds and other sea life sometimes eat them, taking in the toxic pollutants. Motivated by a love of nature, a retired engineer built a machine to collect the pellets and help turn them into an art sculpture to make people stop and perhaps think. Coming up, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen talks about the current state of the banking industry. Topping today's Consumer Watch, Kevin McCarthy used his 100th day as Speaker of the House to highlight the battle between House Republicans and the White House over the debt ceiling. The battle threatens to have a historic and lasting impact on the U.S. economy. Reporter Nicole D'Antonio has more details from Capitol Hill.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy traveled to Wall Street to say the future of the U.S. economy hinges on a showdown with President Biden over the debt ceiling.
Addressing the debt requires us to come together, find common ground, and reduce spending.
Congress has until this summer to raise the debt ceiling to pay for bills it has already passed. If it fails to do so, the U.S. could default on its debt for the first time in history.
Okay, so here's our plan. In the coming weeks, the House will vote on a bill to lift the debt ceiling into the next year.
McCarthy says the bill would return spending to 2022 levels and limit federal spending growth to 1% over the next 10 years. Speaker McCarthy has yet to unify House Republicans on which areas of the budget they're willing to cut, and his proposal is not likely to pass in the Democrat-led Senate.
We're waiting to see McCarthy's plan. That's the next step. He's the one who's holding up us avoiding default because he says he wants cuts. Show us your plan.
President Biden insists Congress raise the debt limit without conditions, pointing out that Republicans voted to do exactly that 3 separate times under former President Trump.
Let me be very clear. There's 2 things I will not do. I will not raise taxes, and I will not pass a clean debt ceiling. It just won't pass.
The White House issued a statement saying, quote, there is one responsible solution to the debt limit, addressing it promptly without brinksmanship or hostage taking. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The government says it should have a more precise date for when it could run out of money and default on the debt once it calculates this year's income tax receipts. The deadline for individuals to file their taxes is tomorrow. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says banks are likely to become more cautious with lending in the wake of recent bank failures. During an interview with CNN that aired over the weekend, Yellen also said she believes there is evidence the country is on a path to tackle inflation and that bringing down inflation and developing a strong labor market are, quote, compatible goals. Best Buy is reportedly laying off hundreds of store workers nationwide. That's according to a Wall Street Journal report that cites people familiar with the situation. The report says the electronics and appliance seller is making a shift toward online where more sales are happening. The largest bridal retailer in the U.S. has filed for bankruptcy. David's Bridal today filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Last week, the company announced it was laying off 9,000 of its roughly 10,000 employees. It blames changing tastes in weddings, where casual ceremonies are becoming more popular, and some women are opting for thrift dresses. David's Bridal plans to keep its 300 stores open, at least for now, while it looks for a buyer. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, on the 10th anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombing, we're going to hear about one runner's journey toward healing. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to hear more about those plans to upgrade lights at the Joplin Regional Airport. Plus, details on an outdoor recreation area the city of Joplin plans to build thanks to a state grant. And Girard and Frontenac square off in a battle of 2 of the best softball teams in southeast Kansas. Stay with us, CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. If you're ever on the go and you want to still be able to watch our newscast live, it's really simple. All you have to do is download the KOAM Plus app. It's available free of charge in the Apple and Google Play stores, as well as Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Just search for KOAM Plus. Yeah. Temperature pretty comfortable for a while before we hit the possibility of a freeze this coming weekend.
That's exactly right, Dow. We're looking for some nice weather again tomorrow, but then storms on Thursday, mainly towards the east. We'll keep an eye on that for you. And then Saturday, scattered storms. And then behind that frontal system, temperatures dropping down into the 30s once again on Saturday morning with a high of only 51, and then maybe a freeze on Sunday morning and a high of 59. Then we start to climb out of the hole as we go up towards the early part of next week, but yet another round of storms later on in the week next week. So, of course, it's a typical roller coaster here in the 4 states.
Guess so. See you at 6. Let's make it a great evening.